How's it going, guys? It's Eclipse here, and I am absolutely disappointed with some of the changes that are going to be made to some of the vehicles that are in the game with the balance update. There is a whole load of vehicles that are getting changed during this next update, which will come tomorrow in World of Tanks console, so be aware of that. There is a brand new season coming tomorrow, so if you haven't completed the season, make sure that you do the current one before tomorrow, otherwise you will not be able to get all of those juicy rewards from getting to rank 100, so try your best to complete it if you haven't already. But the new season, it is the Patriot season for World of Tanks console, and so we'll be seeing a few new vehicles coming in with that season pass. And if you want a bit of a rundown of those vehicles in particular, then I highly recommend checking out the update news video we did on Saturday, and you can have a look at that on the channel. I'll link it at the end of this one, but this one focuses on the information that we weren't actually given on Saturday, or at least on Friday when they released the update notes, that was related to the new map, which is Liberty Falls, as well as the Cold War shell mechanics in-depth information, the Cold War ram damage mechanics and how they've changed them, alongside the UI updates and the actual vehicles that are being buffed, which is, yeah, definitely a bone of contention from what I've seen versus what I felt should have actually changed about some of the vehicles that are in the actual buffed section for this update. So, of course, the new season does start tomorrow, so be aware it is going to start on the 21st of May, or maybe it's already started if you're watching it on the day, but this is what's happened for this update. So the new map, Liberty Falls, this plays between tiers 1 and 10. Tier 10 on this map, going to be a bit of a pain, I think. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that that is the best choice, but Wargaming are rolling with it. It's quite a small map, and there's not a lot really to say about it. It is essentially a 2-lane map, with the center of the map being borderline unusable by pretty much everyone, because it is like a canyon. You go down into here and everyone can see you on all sides of the map, bar some places. There are some usable positions, but they're very, very rare, and often they become unusable during the majority of the game unless you're very switched on to your environment, which, given some of the players in World of Tanks console, I am not entirely sure that, yeah, it's going to work out for most people. But either way, yeah, this map is a pretty fun one. It's a cool one. I actually quite like it. I feel like it's kind of something that we haven't seen in a long time. This is the map layout, as you can see on screen. And essentially the map layout is, as you see, a waterfall over here. This is a tall area of the map. This is often where the heavies will go to fight for the most part, alongside this corner, which will also be kind of heavies and mediums with a little bit of armor. And mediums will often go over here as well, using the ridge lines that are over here. There's a few hills as well backwards over here, and some hills over on this spawn. So spawn 1 is about here, I believe. I believe the cap circle was like here, and then the cap circle being over here as well for the other team, and the spawns being like here. So essentially you got this area of the map that people will be fighting in, and then over here, and then pretty much anyone that goes down into the middle is going to get pounded by all of these directions shooting down into it, dependent on where you're from, and all of the base campers as well. So be aware of that. If you are going down into the middle, please attempt not to. Then we've got the Cold War shell mechanics. So the Cold War shell mechanics, these are, as you would expect, some changes to the shell mechanics. And so what's being effective is essentially that Wargaming noticed that there are a few changes that needed to be made, at least with regards to the Cold War shell mechanics. And so the auto bounce angle was that when you hit an auto bounce angle, it would ricochet, it would go into a different part of the armor, and then often pen that other part of armor which it's ricocheted off of onto another part of armor. So you'd bounce off of one part and then it'd go into another area that would also, you know, be penned then. So you'd still pen someone even though you didn't specifically aim at the point at which you were supposed to pen. This is a real life thing. I mean, whether or not a round would actually have the impact penetration value to go through a vehicle traveling after it's hit another piece of armor and bounce off, unknown. Depends on the thickness of the armor, I assume, and also the angle at which it's actually impacting the second bit of armor that it's going to be hitting, and of course whether the shell is or round is intact when it actually lands onto that piece of armor will definitely affect it shape-wise, that sort of thing. Of course you get spool, that sort of stuff in real life as it gets very hot, and molten bits of lead going into the tank crew. I'm sure that would be really, really nice to have. Either way, instead the penetrator will now shatter. So essentially the shell just shatters, nothing happens to the tank if it doesn't actually pen, so just like a normal ricochet. Penetration will not be calculated on hits beyond 70 degrees, so if an armor is angled above 70 degrees, it will no longer pen regardless, unless it is 3.5 times the nominal armor thickness in order to overmatch. So this is something that we haven't really had clarified before, which is that 3.5 times the nominal armor thickness will give you the overmatch mechanic in World of Tanks console, apparently. Of course, whether that is entirely true for all of the rounds and all of the game modes, not been clarified here, but on Cold War it is definitely that case. So APDS, APFSDS and APFSDS-DU shells will now have that 3.5 times the nominal armor thickness in order to overmatch, as opposed to 3 times as seen on AP and APCR. So while APFSDS is understood to be generally more effective against thinner sloped armor in real life than older kinetic energy projectile types, sloped armor on the modern battlefield is still effective and not entirely invalidated by this ammunition type, so double overmatch mechanics have not been affected. For more in-depth details, please visit our dedicated article, which we will not be doing because it is usually not got that much information that's useful, at least in my opinion. And then we've got the following tanks where you were using World War II shells and have been updated to use the Cold War version. So this is the Su-122-54 and the Object 268, the 56 version, so 1956 version. So essentially the Cold War variants of the Su-122-54 and the 268. Those will be checked. So please check your ammo loadout on the following tanks before you go into the battle. So make sure you do that. If you're wondering why you've got no ammo, it's probably because Wargaming changed it and for some reason they can't edit it so you can put ammo back in the tank after they've made the change. Now, Cold War ram damage mechanics. This was the Weasel nerf that we highlighted in the previous kind of video, and they haven't really given us a whole lot extra here. It's basically the same thing, whereby if a vehicle has 8 times the mass greater than their own, then essentially you'll deal more damage. So if you've got 8 times more mass than the tank you're ramming into, you'll get increased damage when you ram something. The new change will impact the following vehicles, which will now take more damage in these situations. The Weasel 1A1 TOW, which I'm sure everyone is really looking forward to dumping on with a little ram, as I will be when I play Cold War. But yeah, Weasel 1A1, nice to see that tank actually getting some mechanic changes which will affect the vehicle and make it slightly worse, because yeah, the 1A1 is just broken and annoying. It's one of the most annoying tanks I think out there in the game. Either way, UI update has also come, so they've basically changed the layout of the initial Cold War World War II training custom game screen, and the previous drop-down style menu would sometimes cause players to unintentionally enter the wrong mode instead of multiplayer. So they've basically changed it so you don't have a drop-down anymore. It is just multiplayer co-op. You know, you go down and left or right if you want to play the certain one, and it makes it a bit more obvious as to which one you're going to be playing if it wasn't already obvious already. It also frees up space to better view your tank in the garage, so they've removed the garage, the kind of button in the garage, and so the battle button has also changed, so it's no longer at the bottom, I believe. So you can see here, this is where it's now at, so rather than it being like up here where it obscures your tank, it's actually down here, which is good. And yeah, just a few extra updates as to what it looks like. And you can see the post-battle results screen kind of changing the screen look so that it looks a little bit better, a little bit less kind of funky, I guess, as opposed to what it used to be, but nothing major here. It's just slight changes to the looks of it. Yeah, not sure whether I like this look, but maybe it's cleaner. I'm not entirely sure, but you guys will probably have a bigger opinion than I do on this stuff, as it doesn't really impact gameplay, and that's what I'm mainly focused about when it comes to the game. And talking about the gameplay updates and what is actually going to affect your actual gameplay experience is the World War II tank balance update containing 90 tanks that have been buffed from some of the weird and obscure nations, not your common ones, except from France and Germany. But yeah, China, Czechoslovakia, France, Italy, Mercenaries, all very nations that do contain some pretty underpowered vehicles and ones that don't usually get used that much. So yes, finally we're going to get some of the underused tanks getting buffs and changes, hopefully. Let's have a look. So we start off with China. China, you can see here, these are all the low tiers. We're not going to cover the low tiers because they're low tiers, and at the end of the day, if you're playing tier 3 and below, I'm not going to give you any advice because you probably shouldn't be playing tier 3 and below if you've played any length of games. But anyway, tier 5 and above, you can see here we start off with the 60 GFT. This is the tank destroyer, just for reference. This is what you can see here. This is the tank. They've made some changes to this, so you can see hull armor has gone up slightly, so making it a bit more bouncy, but probably not going to work all too much. And they're giving it better dispersion, so I guess for a lower tier vehicle it's slightly better. The WZ131 GFT, they've given it slightly higher repair costs for every HP or hit point that you have, so the more health you have, the more you're going to lose in a game. They've done that for the WZ at tier 6. They've also reduced dispersion, so it will be better, and they've increased the maximum health of the vehicle as well to make it more in line with some of the other tank destroyers at tier 6. They've also increased the armor, so should be a better overall playing experience for this vehicle. And then, wait a minute, we haven't got any of the tier 7, 8, 9 or 10 from the Cold War tech tree. Surely they haven't just buffed tier 6 and below for just the tank destroyer line. The 113, hello? Are we not considering this one? The tanks we never literally see in the game anymore. The 113, the 121 really. Basically any of the other tanks in the game. I guess they don't deserve a buff. Maybe they're just really good in the game, and that's why no one plays them. Yeah, I was really disappointed not to have seen the 113 get some buffs, make it a bit more usable, change up the meta, give it something actually amazing where it makes the tank actually one of the best tanks in the game. But unfortunately, we've gone with the age-old America and the Soviet Union having some of the best vehicles in the game, and will continue to have them, apparently. As you know, I guess this game is super historically accurate with everything that this tank actually has. This tank game, by the way. It's just frustrating that we haven't seen any buffs to the 113 or any of those vehicles leading up to it. The 110, I mean, this tank is horrendous. The 110, basically a worse version of the IS-3. Literally no reason you would play the 110 over the IS-3 unless you just wanted to grind towards the higher tier tech tree vehicles in the Chinese heavy tank line, which is a good reason to do it, but at the end of the day, the 110 is just, it's garbage in this sort of meta. We've got the IS-2, which is just basically a worse version of the IS, which is kind of a weird vehicle for most people to play. It can be a bit tough, but it's still a good one. But either way, a worse version of the IS, which is just not great. And then, of course, you've got things like the Tier 9, the WZ-111, and then you've got, what else is there? The WZ-111 5A, which is the Tier 10, which is in a pretty solid place. I don't think that needs a whole lot of changes. But definitely the 113. Some of the medium tanks for the Chinese line could probably do with a little bit, but they've all been missed out on this, and we've gone for the low tiers. Don't worry though, because we have got some premiums which are being changed. The Alpine Tiger, the WZ-111, which comes in with better dispersion and a better reload. So, I mean, yeah, it will help this tank out. It isn't that great, but it will make it better. WZ-111, so this is like the premium version of the 110, which is just better probably in every way, because the armor might actually work, but they've basically buffed the 111 so that it's moving kind of concealment has gone up. And then your detectability range has gone down, so you're less likely to get spotted, basically. Still concealment's also gone up, so that will reduce the overall range at which you get spotted. And also when you're firing, it's also reduced it, so you're more likely to stay undetected now, so the camo's better. Chassis has also got better dispersion when you're moving the turret and rotating the turret, and the reload time's also gone down. How come the 110 didn't get these buffs and just the premium vehicles? I'm a bit wondering why that might be the case, considering, you know, the 110 is probably arguably worse than both the WZ-111 and the WZ-111 Alpine Tiger version. I just wouldn't have a clue why that would be. The T-34-3, this is the black medium vehicle, which has 390 alpha. They've increased the penetration of this tank such that it's now potentially going to be a bit more usable, so that it's no longer got 175mm of armor penetration, but actually 196 on the standard round, so might be a bit more usable. And they've also increased the accuracy, which is brilliant. I think this is a good change. However, what they have done is decrease the reload time, which means you are now going to have a higher chance of penning things, as well as be able to deal more damage in a set period of time. So I think this is a good change. It'll make the T-34-3 a little bit more usable given the current meta of the game. Now the T-34-3, this is the same tank. They've basically increased the concealment of this tank, as well as they've also increased the accuracy, the reload and the penetration as per the T-34-3 Black Edition. So that's what they've changed. The 59 pattern they've made better. I mean, this tank was not particularly great in the first place, and they've buffed the health by a little bit. Health burn per second has gone up if you get set on fire, I believe. And then they've also reduced the camo, so you're not going to be as easy to spot, which I think is good for a tank like this, as it's got no armor. And they've done the same thing for the Legion 59 pattern, which is the same version of the tank. Then they've made a brilliant change to the Highlander 116 F3. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, they haven't. The Highlander 116 F3, pretty much a very lackluster vehicle that is just annoying to play and borderline boring. And so what they did is they increased the accuracy of the thing. That's, you know, that's okay. That's better than nothing. Aim time, they've also reduced that. That's better than nothing. Cool. Made some of the changes better. Oh, look, they've reduced the reload as well. It's going to make this tank so much more usable. Oh, wait, no. This tank has a 5-second intricate reload to do 500 damage. Meaning that, you know, if you're not absolutely a moron, or your repair kit's actually, you know, still in your tank, if you get tracked by this thing, the person just basically can't get off multiple shots in its autoloader, because the Highlander 116 is an autoloader. It's this vehicle. It's released as part of a season pass. And so it has a 3-shot autoloader with 5-second intricate reload, meaning it will take you 10 seconds to fully unload your clip. 10 seconds to do 1500 damage, and then you have to wait 38 seconds with the new changes. So it makes this tank one of the worst DPM vehicles for a tier 10 in the game, 1900 base, which is horrendous. And so, yeah, okay, it gets a little bit better DPM, but the whole problem was the intricate reload. If you're going to give it such terrible DPM, then at least make the DPM potential usable by reducing the interclip reload, which is pretty much the biggest thing and the biggest negative I had with this tank. I can deal with low DPM, but when you combine low DPM with a tank that has genuinely like one of the worst intricate reloads, I'm talking it's the same as the Foch 155, which deals 750 damage per shell. This one deals 560, I believe, 530 even, sorry. So 530 damage. It deals 220 damage less than the Foch B or the Foch 155. It's the same tank, just with a different gun. But yeah, it's horrendous. I don't know why you would use the Highlander 116 F3, to be honest. Its armor isn't particularly amazing where it warrants having such terrible DPM and effective DPM. I would definitely reduce the intricate reload by about 1 second, so that it had a 4 second. I know that's still very, very long, but it would at least make a usable change to this vehicle. Otherwise, I would never play this tank. It's like, at least for fun, I would never choose to play this tank. It's kind of pointless. Then we've got the 114 SP2. Nice to see the premium tier 10s are getting a buff. You can see the terrain resistances. These have all gone down, which means it's slightly better. You've got the turret traverse speed also going up, as well as buffs to the aim time and the reload. So you're seeing a considerable, about a 5% decrease in the reload speed. So you'll be 5% better DPM. And shot dispersion also going down, so you're just more accurate consistently. 114, really enjoyed this vehicle. Had basically everything that the Highlander 116 didn't have, and yeah, just does a much better job of doing it. Yeah, I don't know why I'd play the 116. Either way, yeah, the 114 SP2 looks even better now with these changes. Did they need them over some of the other vehicles from the Chinese line? I'm not so sure, but you know, whatever, wargaming. I don't know why they didn't give buffs to some of the tanks. It's frustrating. Then we've got some more hope with the Czechoslovakian line. So let's go down the line. So the tier 4 and below I'm not going to cover. The tier 8. So this is the TVP VTU, which is a vehicle that I think is, pretty lackluster. I think everything that they do with this tank doesn't seem to make it better. They've buffed it already. They gave it a flamethrower. It's still just not great. So what they've done is they've given it a massive buff to all of the kind of supporting stats, so things like your terrain resistances, so you'll be faster over different terrain types, you won't be as slow at getting up to top speed, that sort of thing. Very good. I think it's going to help the tank a little bit, make it just a little bit more usable. They've increased the turret traverse speed, so it's going from 38 to 42, which is nice, so about a 10% buff to its turret traverse speed, which is good. 100mm versus the VZ44S TVP. This has also got better accuracy, aim time, and reload. Same for the 105mm as well. Accuracy, aim time, reload, down by about 5%. Roughly, or yeah, about 5% reload speed buff. So that's nice. 88mm has also got better accuracy. Turret has got a better turret rotation speed, as well as better aim time for the 100mm and the 105mm. And for the 105mm, the VZ39N, it's also getting better accuracy. And then they've updated the physics as well, apparently. So tanks should feel a lot better. It should feel a lot better with this vehicle. So fingers crossed that it does make some decent changes. It's still probably never going to be the best vehicle that you actually have in the game. But, you know, that's probably just because that is what the vehicle is. It is quite a big, boxy tank that doesn't hit super hard. And yeah, it's still going to be okay. I feel like it'll be better now. The VZ55, they have changed. So they've shot dispersion penalty during movement and rotation. So they've increased it, which means it's going to be less accurate. The 130mm VZ54-2A, they've increased the reload speed, they've increased the aim time, and they've decreased the accuracy. So it's got worse accuracy. So it's got worse aim time, worse reload, worse accuracy. This was definitely the tier 10 that I would have nerfed. Yay, thank you. It's definitely the tank I would have nerfed. It was so overpowered. I saw so many of these things and definitely got very angry when I was taken out by a VZ, knowing full well that it does 980 damage. Or 1,000 damage even. I think it's 1,020 or something. Oh no, 980. I was right in the first place. Yeah. Thanks for nerfing the VZ. Definitely needed it. Anyway, moving swiftly on, the French tanks. Skipping past all the low tier ones, I'm not going to cover them. We get on to the tier 10. Okay, there's no tier... Oh, this is my reaction to what I see. Right. Okay. First things first. Let's talk about the AMX M4 45. Pretty decent tank. Tier 7 heavy. Fine. Whatever. Then we've got the tier 8, the AMX65T, pretty lackluster, can be performed well in a good player's hands, but for most people not going to work very well. Its armor's terrible, probably could have done with a buff, maybe buffed its speed. Same with all of the French heavies. I feel like they're quite slow, sluggish, and they could really use that to be more usable in the game, and that's probably why you don't see very many in the game, is because they're quite slow and they don't offer a whole lot different to some of the other vehicles you can play. So yeah, there's that. But don't worry, they haven't changed any of these, but what they have done is they have changed the Batchat 155-58, the artillery. Oh, brilliant, that's what I wanted. The concealment of the Batchat has gone up, which means that its camo's got better. Yay. They've increased the steel concealment, so its camo's got better. They've increased its on-fire penalty as well. They've increased its view range. And they've decreased its reload speed. And they've changed the damage of the HE rounds to 660. Thank you. I really am going to love playing against the Batchat 155-58 with better DPM, so it can spam you with its autoloader and outspot you now. That is going to be very fun. I am so glad that these changes were made alongside all of the other tier 10. Oh wait, no, it was just tier 5 and below that they changed. Brilliant. No Lorraine 40T, no Batchat 25T, no Batchat 25T AP. No, any of the French heavies have been buffed. There's so many tanks that could have done with some love, and they opted for an artillery piece. Brilliant. Next one. This honestly seems like just like an April Fool's video, but I don't know. Italy, here we go. Come on, Rinoceronte, I have hope. Right, okay. So skipping past the low tiers. It's like opening a lottery ticket, I swear, seeing what you actually got. We've got the Pantera. Okay. So they have increased the turret rotation speed. They've increased or decreased the reload time of the Pantera, so it's a bit better. You know what? I actually found the Pantera to be fine. It was okay. It wasn't outrageously good. Did it need a buff? Potentially. Did it actually need a buff? Probably not. I think it was an average tank. But they've changed it. Made it better. It will be a good tank now. Reload speed's basically gone down, so you better DPM, better turret rotation speed, better intricate reload as well, and yeah, same with all of the rest of them. Could have seen that with the French medium tank lines like the Batchat 25 TAP. Would have been nice to have some better shell intriclips, but yes, not seeing that in those. The Contracaro 3 Minotauro, worse accuracy, worse aim time, worse intriclip reload. Guess the Minotauro was super OP in the game. They had to nerf it. It was really OP. Definitely the tank I would have nerfed. I wouldn't have given it more speed, to be fair, because it's just sluggish as hell and everyone hates playing it. Yeah. At least they've changed it, so they nerfed it. It was one of the tanks you see in the matchmaker, you know. Screw the Trans. Don't care about those. I mean, they've got nothing on the Minotaur or anything like that. Oh dear. Then we've got the CC, so the Caro. This tank was actually pretty lackluster. They buffed it. I think this is good. Aim time coming down. Reload time also coming down, but probably not going to make this tank absolutely brilliant, but it'll make it better for sure. And I think it's worth it. Right, okay, given my faith in all of the previous changes, what are we going to see with the Mercenary tanks? Okay, load of low tiers, not going to cover those. Slapjack. Okay, so they buffed the Slapjack. The tank, no, I've seen the bottom. No. Okay, right. So the Slapjack is a hybrid between an IS and a T29, right, with the Tiger gun. They buffed its top forward speed, so it's faster than Tiger. This goes 40 now, basically. Health has gone up to 1360. Repair costs gone down, so it's cheaper to use. Health burn per second's gone up, so if you get set on fire, you'll go up. The terrain resistance has gone down, so it's better and faster on all sorts of terrains. So you'll maintain speed, get up to top speed quicker. View range has gone up to 380 meters for a tier 7 heavy tank. Yeah, okay, I love being outspotted by the tier 7 heavy. Reload time has gone up, so they've actually nerfed the reload time. Okay, with the 8.8 centimeter. They've increased the penetration, but what they have done is buff the damage from 220 alpha to 280. So basically no real nerf to this. Probably makes it more usable against a lot of the other tanks at the tier. So the one tank that I said in my yesterday's video, tanks we should probably get buffed, they've gone ahead and not actually just kept it the same, but buffed it. Okay, good. The Cruncher. Okay, this is the tank that I said should be buffed. So they've increased the accuracy, definitely needed. They've increased the reload time, but that's because they've increased the damage by 40. So it's gone from 240 to 280. Penetration has also gone up. So it's just housekeeping. It's very nice. I think it will make the Cruncher a little bit more usable. Is it going to be outstanding? No, but it will definitely be up there now as a potential option to actually pick as a contract if you haven't already got it, and maybe worth actually trying out and giving a go. It's a cool looking tank. Shot dispersion's also gone down. Then we've got the Machine. One tank that I thought, you know, back in the day was one of the most overpowered tanks in the game. It was a TVP T5051 with the unnerfed TVP T5051 gun, which for those of you that don't know, the TVP T5051 did get nerfed back in the day, whereby they reduced some of its gun statistics. The Machine kept hold of those, and then essentially now it's being buffed so that its accuracy is better, its reload time is better, and its aim time is better. So yeah, the tank itself is probably a better version of the TVP T5051, because at the end of the day TVP doesn't get any armor, so the fact that the Machine actually does get a turret, as well as the fact that the Machine's frontal armor, if people don't know the weak point on the side of the track, can be potentially bounce stuff, then there is no point in playing the TVP. But for those of you that don't want to grind through a contract, or maybe you just want to try out a autoloader, the TVP is a fantastic one. I'd highly recommend it. But for some reason, they've buffed the Machine. I don't know why. Whatever. Premium tanks, they buffed the Ruthless, so its speed has gone up, its reverse speed's gone up. Its terrain resistances have also got better, so it'll be faster on different terrain types. So like whether you're driving on a road or on grass or swampland, it'll be better. Keep up to top speed, get up to top speed quicker, blah blah blah, as we've already said. Dispersion's gone down, so it'll be more accurate on the move, or during movement and rotation. So if you're turning the tank. The 183mm, its reload's got or buffed, so it's going to come down, which will give you about a 5% increase to its DPM. So yeah, I mean, not the worst thing in the world, but I'm glad that we definitely got the buffs that we needed. Anyway, moving on. The German tech tree. Right, I'm just going to give you a preface, right? The tanks that actually needed buffing, before I see this is live, by the way, at least when I'm recording this, the buffs we should get are the VK1001P, the Maushan, potentially the Maus, the E100's lower plate, maybe giving it a little bit more, so it does actually bounce something. And then things like the VKB, which is the tier 9 German tank. These are the buffs that we should really be seeing. As far as all of the other tanks, I feel like they're in an okay place. Don't particularly need massive changes. But let's have a look. So, from tier 7, by the way, we'll look at tier 7s first. So, the Jagdpanther. Don't worry, the Jagdpanther's been buffed. Yeah, definitely not an overpowered tier 7 tank destroyer. Has definitely not been buffed. They've increased the rotation speed. They've increased the accuracy when moving and turning. They've removed one of the guns. They've given it an 8.8, a 10.5 centimeter, which they've increased the accuracy on. They've decreased the accuracy of the 8.8 and basically, or they've increased the reload speed, so it will have the better DPM because it has more alpha now, because it's gone from 240 to 280, and the aim time's gone down. I'm starting to get a trend of the tanks I said not to buff yesterday seem to be coming up in these. Okay, Stura Emil, this tank probably could do with a buff, but I actually really enjoyed playing it. I felt like you could perform quite well in it, but they have buffed it either way, increasing its DPM, reducing its or increasing the accuracy of the tank by reducing its accuracy statistic in the game, or dispersion at 100 meters or whatever it is. Aim time they've also reduced, ammo capacity they've increased, which is good because it did run out of rounds, and that should never be the case in the game. Unless you were like just genuinely firing randomly in the game, you should not run out of ammunition. I'm sorry, this is an arcade game. We do not need the fact that a tank can have a max capped limit of how much damage it can do. It should be down to the player to perform well and not use like an infinite amount of ammo during the game. So yeah, just make it a reasonable amount. But yeah, that was definitely a problem with some other vehicles. Type 64, I'm looking at you. But yeah, either way, they buffed the Stura Emil. Okay, cool. Panther 2, given it some slight changes, will make this tank slightly better. They've buffed the reload time of the lower guns. They've changed that 8.8 centimeter to go from 240 to 280 damage and reduce the reload or increase the reload, as you know, with the previous ones. And yeah, then they've done the same to the Indian Panzer, which is tier 8 medium. These are both. One leads to the E50M, which is the Panther 2. And one leads to the Leopard 1, which is the Indian Panzer. I actually really like the Indian Panzer anyway, so it's going to be even better now. Ferdinand, they have increased the rotation speed. They've given it a little bit of love here by the looks of things. Rotation speed better. Terrain resistance is much better. Reload speed has gone up, but they've increased the damage as with the previous, because they're sharing the same gun. 10.5 centimeters got increased reload speed, so better DPM and accuracy, and the 12.8 gets better accuracy. J Panther 2. Okay. Anyway, they buffed the J Panther 2's hit points. Not the worst thing in the world. But they have given the reload speed a decrease. So they've given it more DPM on a tank that was already crazily good. The J Panther 2 was amazing. So why they've buffed that, I have no idea. They could have just given it more hit points. That would be fine. There's no need to give it better DPM. The Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger, our old friend, has also got a whole rotation speed buff. As well as an accuracy buff as well when you're moving and rotating the tank. The turret rotation speed's gone up, so you're a little bit faster at turning. These are some of the things that they're taking an already fairly balanced tank in the Borsig and just making it better for no apparent reason. This is my problem with a lot of these buffs. They're not creating vehicles that are average. They're just buffing ones that were average and making them superiorly good. They're not buffing the ones that are bad and making them average. They're just taking vehicles that are, okay, or not average. The Borsig was actually a good vehicle. It was a great vehicle, and they've made it even better now. They've taken away some of the negatives of that tank, which is the way in which wargaming seemed to go. They're trying to undo all of the limits of a vehicle. You see it with premiums now. Like back in the day, you used to have a vehicle that was really good at doing one thing, and the rest of it would kind of be, average or bad. You'd have a negative alongside a positive. Now it seems like you have a positive and one negative, which should never be the case in my opinion, because all that ends up with is you take the negative as a tank doesn't have armor and get everything else. Look at the CDC. That tank had horrible dispersion. It was super fast for a medium, which was the the cool thing. It had gun depression at the time that was really good. It was fast, and that is what made it different. And then it had really bad armor. It had, terrible dispersion, which made it kind of hard to play for a lot of people. And so it made the tank balanced. It was a balanced vehicle. Was it overpowered in some situations where you could move around the map a lot? Yes, but often that, seems to be disappearing with some of the balancing changes, by the way, that are going on in this game. Like, there's no need to buff the Borsig. This was not a tank that needed buffing. And as many people will probably complain, how come my Borsig doesn't go 35 or 40 kilometers an hour? It's like, well, hang on a minute. You've already got broken camo, and now you're asking for, with a broken gun, by the way. Like, it's absolutely insane, the gun on the Borsig. And they've reduced the reload speed of it. They've increased the accuracy of both of them. They've increased the turret rotation speed, which was one of the problems of it being circled by people. Like, what are you trying to make? Just more overpowered tanks? Please stop. There was nothing wrong with the Borsig. They've caved to people probably complaining about how the Borsig's slow. Anyway. Tier 9, the Leopard PTA. They've changed one of the guns because it's got changed in the past on different vehicles, and they're keeping it in line. They've increased the damage of the 10.5 centimeter so that it matches the PC, but giving it slightly more of a reload, which I think is good. I don't see a problem with this one. The reload speed has gone up for the 9 centimeter, so it's gone from 280 to 300. Same with the lower one. So yeah, it is a balancing change that I feel like doesn't really do a whole lot. But it does give it more alpha, makes it a bit different from the MX-30B, which is somewhat decent. The E50, so this has got better rotation speed. They've buffed it quite considerably by the looks of things. Overalls, better rotation speed means you can turn quicker, which is good. Better dispersion, so you're more accurate when you're moving and rotating. You've got increased reload speed because it's got those different gun changes on some of them that are relevant. And then it's got better aim time, and kind of that's how they've done it. With the 50, should make it a little bit more usable. The BAR, right, here we go. A tank that is definitely requiring of some buffs. View range wise, they've increased the view range. That was definitely what was limiting the vehicle. They've increased the armor thickness, so from 170 to 230, so they've made it better. They've decreased the dispersion, so it's better, which is good. They've increased the horsepower of the tank. They've then increased the horsepower of the second engine, which is good. I mean, not by a huge margin, so it's not really going to make a difference. If they went from 900 to 1,000, make it much better. But going from 900 to 950, not really a whole lot. The biggest thing is the stock grind will be a little bit better, going from 700 to 800, because it's a bigger difference. But when you get the fully upgraded version, it's not really made a whole lot of difference. You've only got an extra 50 horsepower. Then you've got a reload decrease, which is good. Better DPM, better accuracy, and more armor. They've then changed the same thing for the bigger ones, and yeah, that's kind of what they've done with the bar. The key problem I had with the bar is it's got 1 degree of gun depression, and any tank that has 1 degree of gun depression is pretty much useless in 90% of the scenarios, so please at least give it 2 degrees, 3 degrees. I don't care if it's not statistically accurate or historically accurate to what it actually was. Let's be real, you've got like the Lemon Russ in the game and random like vehicles in the game. Let's not talk about historical accuracy. I don't think that's a relevant thing. So I would give it 3 degrees of gun depression and just be done with it and make it somewhat usable, and probably wouldn't have needed any of these if they just did that. But there we go. GW Tiger has got a buff to its rotation speed and its aim time. Brilliant. More artillery buffs. The E100, they've given it more health. And they've buffed the dispersion, so it's more accurate. Brilliant. More accurate heavy tanks. That's what we need. Definitely don't just need to just buff the armor of some of these heavies to make them a little bit better. would make them a lot better. But the E100 hasn't got a lower plate nerf. It hasn't got any armor buffs even. Yeah, they've just basically increased the accuracy and given it more health. It's better than nothing, but they should stop adding to the accuracy of all of these heavy tanks, in my opinion, and just make the heavy tanks better themselves in that their armor actually works by buffing the armor of the heavy tanks, because it's considerable now that heavy tanks basically sacrifice everything to get armor, and the armor doesn't work because everyone can pen it with premium rounds. So what's the point in having the armor and sacrificing everything else to get it? Either way, Leopard 1, this is a tank that I would not have buffed. The Leopard 1 was fine. No need to change the dispersion of the tank. No need to change the turret rotation speed. They changed the dispersion when using the turret, when using the 10.5cm gun as well. The accuracy's gone up. The reload has gone down, but that's because they've given it essentially a increased gun damage. So yeah, that's what they've done. They've also changed the ammunition so that your premium rounds are now 1600. I would love to have a conversation with the people making the decisions for the buffs to understand why they've done these things, because in my mind, you're picking tanks that are absolutely fine in the game and don't really need any changes. Fair enough, you want to give it 420 alpha so that it matches with PC, whatever. Decrease the reload, or make the reload time longer, add an extra bit of damage. You don't need to buff the accuracy of an already crazy accurate vehicle. In a game where we already have broken accuracy, there's no need. There's no need to do it. But apparently they've done it. So, whatever. Rheinmetall Panzerwagen concealment has got better, so this is a good change for a light tank player. Yeah, it's just better concealment, and they've also reduced the accuracy or the dispersion, so it would be more accurate. And they've given it a little bit more health, so I think that could definitely help improve the Panzerwagen. I think it's a good change. Guerrilla 15 has got better concealment. I think this is a fair thing to do, since it is a tank that had pretty bad camo. Considering that it's supposed to be coming off of tanks that have crazy camo like the Borsig and the Waffle Panzer IV, and then you get to tier 10, it doesn't have that good camo, and you get just basically no reason to play it over the Turan, because the Turan's just better in every single department, including the damage it deals. And they've also changed the yaw limits, so now it can go 180 degrees to the left and 180 degrees to the right. So looks like they may have actually given it a fully traversable turret, which is interesting, because this could make the tank quite cool. I'm looking forward to testing this one out. We'll do a full video on the Guerrilla 15, since you may or may not have seen my video recently where we got about 8k damage, 7.5, something like that, in the Guerrilla. And I didn't make a full video on it because I wanted to do it as kind of a guide as to how to play tanks that aren't particularly amazing. So it'd be cool to do a full video on the Guerrilla. So that's what we are going to do shortly. So stay tuned on the channel. I appreciate this video is getting quite long, but I wanted to give my honest opinion on some of these changes and convey to you why certain things are how they are, that sort of thing. I think it's important for your own knowledge, and just in general drumming into you what the statistics mean, so you know how to combat them by putting on different pieces of equipment, that sort of thing. It does help. Buffs, premium wise, they buffed the Adler, that's fine. Kruppsdale Waffenträger increased the reload but gave it that 280 damage. Probably could have done with more buffs, to be honest. This tank is a bit weak. Lerva, they've given it more damage, reduced the DPM, or reduced the reload. No, increase the reload, but yeah, you guys get what I mean. They've increased the reload, giving it more damage, so the DPM remains similar to what it was. E75 TS, they buffed it, same sort of story, except this one's got better turret rotation speed, bit more health, better aim time, better accuracy. Panzer 58 Mutz, similar sort of story, better dispersion, increased reload time, but increased the damage as well, and accuracy's got better, and radio range has gone up from 570 to 700. Okay, cool. Wraith Panzer 58, this has also got the same changes as the Panzer 58 Mutz, except the base values were slightly different, so they've done that. Panther 88, they've got some changes that will increase the accuracy during movement and rotation, and they've increased the reload time but increased the damage. The Hollenhund's got some buffs. Fortress Ferdinand has also got some buffs. The Jagdtiger 88 has been buffed so that it's a bit better on various different terrain types, as well as increase the hull rotation, increase the reload, but increased the damage at the same time. And they've updated engine physics to correct 870 horsepower. And the Kanonen Jagdpanzer 105 and the Striker Kanonen Jagdpanzer, they've had the increased reload, but they've given them 420 alpha now. And then the Panzernacker has got an increase in damage of from 240 to 280. But what they have done is they've increased the reload cumulatively of the 3 shells it fires, as well as increased the intraclip reload, which it probably didn't really need to increase the intraclip reload, to be honest. But yeah, that's kind of how they've changed all of the tanks. And my overall opinion is they missed out on a lot of opportunities to buff some of the actual tanks that I feel like are a bit weak in the game and require some attention, including a lot of the off-nation vehicles, the 113s, etc., 121Bs, the French heavies, the French mediums that aren't just the AMX-30B and the Batchet 25T, but all of the ones leading up to them are a bit lackluster. So yeah, a bit frustrating that they didn't do that, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what they've done for this game. If you've got any questions or you want me to run over, or maybe you think I'm completely wrong in my assessment of everything, let me know in the comment section down below. I really do appreciate you watching to this point in the video. Yeah, that's just disappointing, man. I'm disappointed with what they've done to the buffs. I was hoping they would buff some of the weirder vehicles in the game, but either way, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.